everybody and welcome back. So, some of my followers asked me to talk about the Victorian Age, and I'm really happy to do so because we have talked a lot about Romanticism and now we are ready, to take a step forward. And the Victorian Age is an extremely important and extremely representative period as far as English literature is concerned too. We're going to analyze some of the most important writers, but in order to understand them, to analyze them, we have also to understand, we have also to explain some of the main aspects of the social, political, economical, religious background, because now literature, art and society are extremely close to one another. So, first of all, which period are we talking about? The Victorian Age or the Victorian era, if you prefer. It starts in 1837. This year, Victoria becomes queen, and she is only 18 years old, And the Victorian era or Victorian Age finishes in 1901. So, this is a very long kingdom, this is absolutely a very long kingdom and a period of great changes, and many things happen in this period actually. So first of all, the Victorian Age is also called the Age of Empire. The Age of Empire because obviously the colonies are play an extremely important role, in the Victorian Age and Victorian politics too and economics too. This is also a very difficult period because of the social unrests. We can say that working conditions in factories are extremely bad, are extremely difficult. Workers have no rights, they are completely exploited, they have to live in bad and horrible hygienical conditions, and also urbanization is completely out of control, and so these slums are absolutely are a terrible place to live in, and also the health condition of people was terrible. Then we can see also that high food prices don't help somehow, and the economical depression also leads to some movements, revolutionary movements, like for example Chartism in 1838. In this case, Chartists were asking the parliament for the People's Charter, so this document that could help to reach a higher level of democracy. Well, actually workers have to wait for a long time to see something like this happen. At least they have to wait until 1867 when the Reform Bill is signed, and then in 1871, the Trade Union Act finally allows them to have their unions legalized. So we can also add another aspect which is very important actually, and it concerns the Corn Laws. The Corn Laws. Basically, landowners, aristocrats, were, artificially keeping the prices of the corn, so prices of bread, very high. And this problem obviously could see for the first time probably workers and middle class united against the situation that obviously provoked great and terrible social unrest, and it made also the situation worse in Ireland, where society and politics were extremely difficult at the time and people were starving. So then the reduction of the bread price, we can say that brought some relief, not only in England but also in Ireland, even if huge problems were still very strong, especially the differences between Roman Catholic Irish people and Protestant Irish people who didn't have the same rights as the Catholic ones, which was absolutely terrible and provoked great social unrest and discontentment, obviously. Well, as far as peace and war is concerned, we can say that England now came from a very peaceful period. After Waterloo, we can say that basically Britain didn't have to face any important war. But now it's time to fight again. Yes, because the Crimean War comes and England has to basically to fight in order to stop or to try to stop the designs of imperialism, the imperialism in Russia, new imperialist Russia. Well, on the other side, we can also say that politics were influenced by more democratic thoughts. I'm talking specifically about a philosopher who talked about politics, basically, and he was John Stuart Mill. He did believe, as before, in utilitarianism, and so he really believed in the pursuit of the greatest happiness for the greatest number of people. But on the other side, he also questioned the concept of the laissez-faire. So basically, he tried to find a certain balance between individual freedom and, on the other side, state intervention, which was quite modern actually and quite new at the time. Now, back to the topic of the Britain's empire. We said this was the age of empire. We can say that the British Empire, so colonies, covered a quarter, which is a lot, a quarter of the Earth land surface. It is something absolutely huge. Someone said that, or used to say that the sun never set on the British Empire, because somewhere, around the world, the sun was always shining, or rising. It was absolutely huge. The British Empire we can say that it has got its origins in the 16th century with Elizabeth I, Tudor, obviously, and her first pioneering voyages. But now, during the Industrial Revolution, there is a sort of a new start, new needs for raw materials, for example, or trade. And so, for this reason, colonies play a very, very important role in Britain politics and economics as well. Great Britain had settlements mainly or mostly in Canada, in West Indies, in Australia, in New Zealand, in Africa, in India. Queen Victoria was also called the Empress of India. She was proclaimed Empress of India, and India was considered the jewel of the crown. The jewel of the crown for both the materials they could trade and also the strategic position and role it played. So it was absolutely important. In this period, we can say that British mentality also changed, because this great power they had, outside England on colonies, I can say developed a sort of a mentality of superiority. they started to feel that they were sort of a chosen race which could carry civilization to other countries, and they could really take Christian religion all over the world. So it was a sort of a nationalistic and imperialistic mentality that wasn't just that didn't just involve politics, but also culture, also literature. We have many authors, many writers during this period who talk about these topics, about the perspective of British people, of Britons on one side, or colonies on the other side. Let's think about Kipling, for example, or maybe we can mention some works like Heart of Darkness by Conrad, or A Passage to India, maybe. So this is very important also as far as literature was concerned. Then obviously this mentality also provoked wars, real battles, like for example the Boer War in Africa, okay, where the Dutch, we can say the Boers, so who had Dutch origins, didn't accept, okay, this attitude and this action coming from Britain, and this is how the Boer War started. Then we can say that then basically the transformation of colonies into dominions was also a reason for new unrests, because those colonies started to wish for some possibilities to decide something, okay, as far as British politics were concerned. And on the other side, they wanted some more independence. So this was also a very difficult situation to handle, basically, yes. One of the contradictions, one of the we can say the contradictory elements of this period was that outside England, the situation was extremely flourishing. These colonies, this mentality, and on the other side, inside the borders in England, the situation wasn't easy at all, because starting from let's say that in the 70s, okay, 1870s, obviously I'm meaning, okay, there was a very strong depression, okay, a very strong we can say economic depression, and also social tensions, obviously coming from that, and it was mostly due to the fact that new countries were now extremely competitive. Germany, for example, in Europe, or the United States. So these new countries were now strong competitors, and that provoked a Great Depression, because England wasn't ready, okay, to face it at first. Well, on the other side, as I said before, there were these sort of a democratic steps forward. For example, the two reform bills, okay, which allowed a new extension of the vote, and the vote was extended especially to agriculture workers and miners, which was extremely good at the time. And we also have to mention that in this period, together with this extension of the vote, was also an improvement of the local government authorities. And so also the House of Commons changed somehow, and local authorities could gain more power. Then again, talking about society, okay, society of the time, this is extremely present in literature, okay, extremely. So first of all, we have to mention the fact that Victorian society was based on a strict moral code, on appearances, on manners, on a very strict pattern, social pattern. The base, we can say that the main cell of society was patriarchal family, and the role of women inside this patriarchal family was to look after the household, and their highest fulfillment in life was to marry, okay, to achieve good marriage. Now, does it remind you anyone we talked about? Of course, Jane Austen. She talked about that. She had talked about that many years before the beginning of the Victorian Age, but she could somehow study, okay, her own small world. That was the small world of her social class, of the gentry, but it was also a mirror of society and the way society was changing towards Victorian Age, okay? So we can find a lot of these aspects in her works, okay? And this is extremely interesting. Then also in this case, also talking about society, there are many contradictions. There were many contradictions at the time. So on one side we have reforms, on the other side, and on one side we have also great discoveries, okay, scientific and technological discoveries. On the other side we have unrests, as we said before, also religious unrest sometimes. We have also the application of the steam power, especially in textile industries. And also there was the cutting of new canals, building of new roads, new railways. So the Industrial Revolution provoked also a transport revolution as well as an agricultural revolution too, okay? And talking about transport revolution, okay, it's not about just about moving goods, but also people move, okay, and ideas move along with people, okay. So that was also a very important element as far as culture was concerned, basically. And when we talk about these cities, industrial cities and slums and urbanization and this intolerable overcrowding and bad health condition, we also talk about some of the main themes of some authors of the time, Dickens, for example. Dickens talked a lot about that, about social injustice, about also the injustice of the penal code, actually, and he talked about the alienation of the individual inside the new system, okay, inside these new societies. Also, in this case, we had someone who could imagine this before. Do you remember when we talked about romantic poets and we mentioned Blake, and in particular his works, his poems, London and the Chimney Sweeper? He also criticized these aspects that were starting to develop at the time. Now Dickens analyzes, okay, in a different way, in a deeper way, obviously, and he also considers all the aspects and mechanisms inside society. And when we talk about society and we talk about this strict moral code, this sort of sometimes also an oppressive pattern, okay, this middle-class society that couldn't get over some rules and also stereotypes. We could also say that these aspects were the inspiration, even if it was unconscious, for some authors, some writers like Stevenson. The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. This is a masterpiece, obviously, and he wasn't probably aware of it, but he was considering the dualism of the individual, and on one side the say the instinctive part, the unconscious part of the individual, which is extremely frustrated, and on the other side the individual who is accepted by society, and who is accepted by Victorian, you can say, idea, okay, or ideal of man at the time. And the unconscious side, when it is too frustrated, okay, when it is too oppressed, then it will become impossible to be controlled. Impossible to control. So basically this is also a result, this work is also a result, a metaphorical and a symbolical result of the various forces that moved, that were fighting under the surface of this society, which was based on appearances, but obviously there was so much okay, moving and growing up under the surface. So oh, just one more thing, maybe. England at the time was really trying to show its own power, its own modern development, technologies and everything. And this is why in 1851 there was the first exhibition, so the Great Exhibition of Industry. It was held in London, and it was really, we can say it was a sort of a way to display how proud, okay, Britons were as far as technological triumphs were concerned. Okay, so this was also an important aspect of the image that England wanted to give of itself. Okay. So, I've explained the main aspects of the background, social, political, economical, cultural background of Victorian society, Victorian era, Victorian age, and now we are ready to go on and talk specifically about some of the most important writers of the time. So, see you next time with Charles Dickens, and if you have any questions or any requests, please just leave a comment below. And again, please subscribe my channel and share my videos if you like them, because the more we are, the better we can work together. Thank you very much and see you very, very soon. Bye!